Last year, a PR director called me, frustrated. Her team of 3 people was spending about 4 hours each and every single day manually scanning hundreds of news articles trying to find opportunities for their clients. They tried spreadsheets, they tried Google Alerts, nothing worked well enough for them. She wanted to do something with AI, and she asked me, should we build a chatbot? That was a wrong question, and I hear equally wrong questions from SMB leaders each and every single week. Should we use a GPT? Do we need a custom model? What is the best AI platform? Here's the real pain. When you don't know which question to ask, you don't know where to start. And when you don't know where to start, you either do nothing or watch your competitors pull ahead. On the alternative, you can also burn months and thousands on projects that sounded exciting at the beginning, but they deliver nothing. By the end of this video, you will never fall into this trap because you'll have something much more useful, a way to figure out which AI project is actually worth your time and money. Let me give you the map up front. We are going to see 3 different types of AI projects that actually make sense for SMBs, real examples for each one, and a simple test to decide which one belongs to your business first. You will leave this with a framework that you can take into your next leadership meeting and say, these are the processes that we should look at first, and this is the kind of project that it fits without needing to become an AI expert. And just so you know who is talking to you, I run a data sciences and AI consultancy that has been building production systems for tech companies and SMBs since 2021. What you're about to see comes directly from projects that we've actually shipped, not theory. Before we go any further, one quick reframe that changes everything. When I say an AI project, what I really mean is an automation project. And here is something you should know about this channel. I'm not here to hype AI, I'm here to help define practical uses for it. What excites me, it isn't the technology itself, it's the potential it has for automation. AI is just a very useful tool that makes certain types of automation possible. The goal is not to do AI, but the goal is a return on investment, getting back the time or money for a process that currently costs too much of both. Every project I'm going to show you today started with the same question. Where is someone in this business spending a lot of time on something repetitive? And that's the right question, not should we build a chatbot? And that question leads directly to the most important concept in this video. I call it the Intern Test. And here's the question that you need to ask about any process you are thinking of automating. Could you write down the guidelines of the process clearly enough that you could hand them to an intern with no prior experience about the job or your company? And could they do the job? Maybe not perfectly at first, but could they follow the instructions? If the answer is yes, you are looking at a strong automation candidate. The process is straightforward enough for the system to handle it. But on the other hand, if the answer is no, it generally requires years of judgment, creativity, instinct that you can just simply write down. The AI is probably going to struggle here too. Don't start there. The process with the highest return, anyway, are the ones with the most boring process, not the exciting transformational ones, the repetitive, time-consuming, dull processes that someone on your team is quietly grinding through every week. And notice this is not about seniority or job title, it's about whether you can turn the work into a set of clear, repeatable, and most importantly, reproducible SOPs, a set of clear steps and examples that someone else can actually follow. Let's start with the technology getting most of the attention right now. Large language models, or LLMs for short. You all heard the names ChatGPT from OpenAI, Claude from Anthropic, Gemini from Google, and many more. According to the headlines, we all should have been replaced at this point, but here all are. And let's ignore all this hype for a moment and let's look at what's actually useful about them. The reality is that LLMs are incredibly powerful at augmenting humans, not replacing them. There are force multipliers. A smart person with an LLM can do things faster, but an LLM alone without the judgment and context of a human, let's say that things can start to get messy. And here's why. LLMs have been trained to do one thing and one thing only, that is continuing the sentence, and that's it. They have been trained pretty much on the entire internet, so they are very good at this pattern. But there is a catch. Since all they know is to continue this sentence, they can continue in a way that is wrong. Confidently sounding indeed, but inaccurate, or pretty much just made up. This isn't just a box they fix, it's something that is built into the way they work. So, the question isn't can we replace people? The question is like, where can we use this tool to make people dramatically more productive? Back to our example, back to the PR director. Her team job was genuinely complex. In one specific way, they needed to read the articles and decide, does this relate to our client plan? Should we respond to it? Is the tone right? Does it match their campaign? And that's a language tax that requires not only understanding of the context, nuance, and also the brand positioning. What we built essentially was a reading and matching machine. News come in, the LLM reads each article and it compares against a detailed brand profile we built for each and every client. It gives a relevant score and critically an explanation, meaning that it's not just this is 80% relevant, it's going to say something in the lines like, this relates to your client's sustainability campaign because the article covers X and the client stated the positioning Y. The team went from hours of scanning to pretty much 20 minutes reviewing a short rank list. And the quality of what they've caught actually improved. Fewer missed opportunities, better rationale of what they actually process. So what can we learn? LLMs make sense to be applied when there are like reading and writing and text matching tasks. Also when context and nuance matters and there are patterns that we can leverage. When you need an explanation, they're also very useful, not just yes, no. And when the volume is high enough, if a human can do it in 5 minutes, there's probably no point in automating that. This is also where the intern test is the most useful because like an LLM, like a new smart intern, has the general intelligence that we humans have, but it's lacking the context of your company. So the better and the more clear the guidelines and examples that you provided, both the LLM and the intern, the better they will perform. So the pros of the LLMs is that it's very flexible and it adapts pretty much to any language. It handles ambiguity quite well. It's fast to prototype, weeks, not months. And it doesn't require custom labeling data sets, which is normally like quite costly and a bit annoying if you ask me. Then on the con side, we have that we need to make API calls that if we deploy it at scale, they can accumulate, they can hallucinate for the issue that we mentioned that they are pretty much like continue the sentence machines, and we need humans to review high stake outputs. And most important, the prompt quality matters enormously. Bad prompt, meaning the text that we give to the LLM, equal bad results. For the second type, let me take you somewhere completely different. Computer vision, in simple terms, is LLMs, but for image and video. Instead of reading text, it reads pixels. Instead of understanding language, it understands shapes, positions, and movements. This makes it incredibly powerful for tasks where someone is currently looking at a screen repeatedly. For example, quality inspection in production line, security monitoring across multiple camera feeds, counting inventory, or tracking the flow of people. These are scenarios where computer vision excels. A security company came to us with a very specific problem. They had over 50 CCTV camera feeds running continuously, and they needed to detect weapon threats in real time. Their current process was staff manually watching those feeds, which is slow, expensive, and prone to the human error. Let's run the Intern Test to see what we can do here. So can we run those guidelines? Let's try. Watch the footage, and if you see something that looks like a gun, a knife, or a threatening posture, flag it. Yes, we can. That wasn't so hard after all. The process is quite straightforward, and it only requires to operate faster than the human speed actually can. So what we did was to build a distributed pipeline that it could process all 50 streams, and it took only milliseconds for each of them. Then what we get is bounty focuses on the threads, instant alerts for the operators, and we can run everything on a single device. No cloud dependency, no GDPR risks, as no data is leaving the building. Once everything has been trained on your environment, computer vision is extremely reliable. It operates faster than the human eye. It runs 24/7, doesn't have any fatigue, and it scales across dozens of feeds simultaneously. The trade-offs is that it needs good training data with your scenarios, your lining conditions, and your environments. It's a little bit less flexible than LLMs, just because one you run it in your hardware and the other you use the cloud to run it. But that's just an option. You can also run computer vision models in the cloud. Now, and this is only going to take a minute, let me give you a useful mental model of how AI systems actually work. This isn't a technical detail just for its own sake. It's a framework that will help you remember what each type of AI is good at and where it struggles. Let's start with a classical example of face recognition, where a computer vision model, it doesn't see an image and a face the same way we do. What it does is it first looks at the low-level features, those being like the edges, the curves, and the texture. And then it combines those into the mid-level features. Those are the eyes, the nose, the ears. And finally, it builds those in order to create the high-level features, that being like the complete face or the person identity. Why does this matter to you as a business leader? Because this pattern tells you something that's crucial. These systems are incredibly good at tasks where the input is visual and the output is a classification or a detection. But they are only as good as the data that they've seen during training. Meaning that if the lining is different, the angles are different, or there is a novel environment, they will struggle. An important point is that LLMs can also do computer vision tasks. Those are normally referred as multimodal models. They can process both text and images indistinguishably, but the model that I've just given you, that's the one that's still the most widely used in production systems, just because it's a lot more efficient in terms of computational cost. And now for the project type that surprises most people, and the one that most consultancies, including AI consultancies, will never lead with, because it's simply not as exciting sometimes. As an example, a financial services firm came to us with 800,000 documents, S3, OneDrive, SharePoint, shared across those 3 separate cloud platforms. The team was spending an enormous amount of time trying to find those and spending time emailing between the colleagues like, hey, where is that document that we were working on last March? We built in a unified search system, and what's interesting is that the highest impact barely used any AI at all. Smart indexing, fuzzy searching, meaning if there is like any minor typo, it will still be able to find everything. OCR to make the scan PDF document searchable, speech to text on audio recordings, and the results of under 1 second for all 800,000 documents. Was there any LLM involvement? Yes, for generating quick summaries, but the part that gave them the highest ROI, the one that gave the team back countless hours, that was just well-designed algorithms. Let's run the intern test. Search these documents from the top and give me the ones that they match the query in a rank manner. Extremely straightforward, perfect rules, perfect fit for automation. So where does algorithmic automation make sense? Think about search and retrieval, finding documents and records, matching and routing invoices to vendors, support tickets to agents, scheduling and optimization, assigning resources, routing to deliveries, scoring and ranking, any task where the rules can be written explicitly, essentially essentially any task with a structured data and a clear logic. And while this third category is in AI in the way that most people use the word, it's become dramatically more accessible because of AI. Tools like Elasticsearch for search, Redis for real-time matching, and Metabase for business intelligence are mature, documented, and predictable. They power serious production systems, and most of what they do would have been called AI just a few years back. The trade-offs are straightforward. Algorithms are the cheapest and most reliable option, with the same input always producing the same output, but they are inflexible. Every new scenario requires engineering work, and they can handle ambiguity and unstructured inputs like images and freeform text. Here's what I want you to notice. The ROI doesn't follow the complexity curve. The highest ROI project I've delivered in the last 18 months for an SMB was the document search system, which was mostly algorithmic. The most exciting technology is almost never the right first project. The right first project eliminates the most time from the most straight line process in your business. Run the intern test on your 3 most time-consuming repetitive process. Then start small. One process, one project. Every business I work with that had the best AI outcomes started with single well-scoped projects. One that's working, then the case for the next project builds itself. And here's a quick way to estimate whether a project is worth pursuing. Say you have 3 people spending 4 hours a day at around £30 an hour. That's 90,000 a year. And if the automation saves you 80% of that time, that's around 72,000 a year, and it only costs you 15,000, it pays itself in around 3 months. We are not removing people, we are removing boring work so we can get these people to work on things that require the human judgment. As a rule of thumb, if the annual cost of a repetitive process exceeds the automation cost by 2x or more, it's worth a conversation. If you want deeper breakdowns for real automation projects, subscribe. Remember the PR director? She wanted to build a chatbot. Instead, we built a news matching engine. 6 weeks. Her 3-person team went from 4 hours of scanning daily to reviewing a rank shortlist in 20 minutes. That's what the right first project looks like. If you're looking for your own business and wondering which of those 3 fits, we work with SMBs on exactly that kind of scoping. Free consultation in the description below. No pitch, just a conversation about where the real opportunities are. Till the next one.